Hi guys, it's Annette and I'm back. I'm going to piggyback off of my last video. If you were here for my last video, I was talking about the end of Hollywood with the Hollywood strikes, and I was talking about the end of woke culture in media and entertainment. I kind of went on a bunch of tangents in that last video, different subjects. I didn't have anything written down. I had to cut down the video a lot. So I think each of those topics deserve their own designated videos. So those are coming up. But today I want to talk about how I found a video online that Walt Disney testified in Congress against unions. So I kind of want to talk about that today. In my last video, I defined woke because I didn't want anyone to jump in the comments and say, define woke. So to me, define woke is the Democratic Party because they own media. The Democratic Party owns media. They're the ones that feed us all the propaganda, the programming, everything they tell us in the media. They are weaponizing human compassion to turn America into a communist country. So I know what you're thinking. How does the government use human compassion against us and weaponize it? Well, they say you have white privilege. They always say Mexicans can't read and drive and black people can't get a driver's license and all this stuff. But you know what? None of that's true. As a Mexican, I can read sorta. I can write sorta. I can edit like a boss. I can film like a boss. I can drive an automobile. I can sing. I can dance. I can even drive stick. How many of you can drive stick? And what does a communist country mean? A communist country means that you rely on the government for everything, for your health care, for your housing, for your groceries. But it's not free. It's taxed heavily. So you do have to pay for it. And they only give you a little bit. So it keeps the rich man rich and it gets away with middle class, and there's only poverty. Okay, I'm going to talk more about communism and stuff like that and unions after we watch the Walt Disney video. But this Walt Disney video is making its rounds on the internet. I saw it on TikTok originally, and he's talking about unions and communists.
Didn't pull my punches on how I felt. And he evidently heard that I had called them all a bunch of communists, and I believe they are. And at a meeting, he leaned over and he said that you think I'm a communist, don't you? And I told him that all I knew was what I'd heard and what I'd seen. And he laughed and said, well, I used their money to finance my strike of 1937. And he said that he got the money through a personal check of some actor, and I don't know who that. He didn't even name the actor. I didn't go into it any further. I just listened.
Can you name any other individuals that were active at the time?
I don't believe it's a political party. I believe it's an un-American thing. And the thing that I resent the most is that they are able to get into these unions and take them over and represent to the world that a group of people that are in my plant that I know are good 100% Americans are trapped by this group, and they're represented to the world as supporting all of those ideologies, and it's not so. And I feel that they really ought to be smoked out and shown up for what they are, so that all the good free causes in this country, all the liberalisms that really are American, can go out without this taint of communism. That's my sincere feelings.
I've always heard that unions are bad, but I guess there are pros and cons to union. I'll go ahead and just explain what I know about unions, but they're going to be someone who negotiates for you and your employer, through you and your employer, or does any bargaining. But they don't negotiate for you as an individual. Let's say you went back to school and you needed some time off for your classes, and you ask your boss, hey, I need to be off by this time every day because I have class. And your boss will tell you, okay, we'll go get a job at CVS across the street. A union isn't going to step in there because it's one individual person. It has to be a collective. Let's say everyone you worked with wanted Sundays off for church or something like that, or you guys all wanted more pay. That's when the union steps in, talks to your employer, negotiates, and bargains. The first problem with the union is it puts a wedge right in between the employer and the employees. I know it's like that with a lot of places where they're higher ups and there's always like politics, but this really drives a wedge. It's like employees versus employers. So there's not a good relationship there. So it doesn't make you feel good when you're at work. There's always just this weird feeling because it's you versus them. Unions also cost money, and unions do not look out for the individual. They don't want you to grow. They don't want you to have any personal growth in the company. They don't want you to move up as manager. They want you to do the same job you were hired for and just do it right like a machine. Unions also cost your employer a lot of money, and the man who makes the money never loses out on money. So they're going to take it out on the consumer. So it costs your employer money to have the union fight for you guys, and then that's going to drive up prices for the consumer, whatever you guys are selling. Let's say you work at Starbucks and you guys want fair wages. That's going to cost the employer money since you guys are going through strike or whatever with the union, and then that's going to drive up prices to coffee. I was editing earlier and I realized I didn't get to my point. So if the unions, so if the companies have to pay for unions, then the studios, they own all the streaming services, which the streaming services are going to go up in price because the man never loses out on his dollar. And theaters are going to go up in price, which they're just trying to kill theaters altogether. And COVID had a big part to do with that too. But I just wanted to add this part. I'm going grocery shopping on a Saturday morning. And it's 100 degrees at 9 a.m. But it's really cold in the grocery store. So I have to bundle up because it's going to be so cold. It's the same different. The man always gets his money. The man who makes the money he'll never lose. He'll always get his money. Just like if you vote for minimum wage to go up, that's going to drive prices up in food, housing, gas, everything goes up because you just made minimum wage go up in every industry. The man will always make his money, so prices go up everywhere. Rent, food, clothing. So you never really got a raise because it's still inflation. Just like when you tax the rich. Why did everything get more expensive when we tax the rich? Because the man never loses. He's going to raise the prices. When are we going to start being smarter? And keep in mind, minimum wage was never created for inflation or the cost of living. Minimum wage was only put in place so companies won't go out of business or get fined or in trouble. Especially during the time they did the minimum wage, there was a lot of immigrants working in factories and they were paying them pennies. They didn't take into consideration inflation or the cost of living. It's just enough for companies not to get in trouble. They don't calculate in cost of living. So yes, I talk down about socialism a lot, communism, when you rely on the government for everything, because the man who has the money and the power, the leader, will always have the upper hand and have the most money, and everyone will have poverty. Same thing with capitalism. As long as there's people with more money and power than everyone else, that power and that greed and that villainous creeps in, and there'll always be someone in charge. But before all this inflation, capitalism was the old American dream. Like our parents or grandparents used to afford so much more than what we can afford now. It's just sad. To where I kind of think this country is going to have to turn into a communist country just because the cost of living is ridiculous. At this point, our dollar is worth nothing. By the way, have you guys heard about the brick currency yet? You guys heard about, what they're doing in Hawaii and buying all the land? Brick currency. If you heard about that, please write something in the comments. Let me know if you want to hear a video about that. I always hear people preaching socialism and stuff, but I think that it's those people that they're probably really young and still live with their parents, or their parents still, take care of their finances. Because I think you have to be super rich. Walt Disney warned Hollywood that little communists were going to creep into Hollywood and this would eventually happen. But it actually is happening to the country. I do want to talk about Rachel Zegler for a little bit when she was talking all the crap about Snow White, how she didn't like the original, and it's not about finding love and romance. It's all about being a girl boss and being a leader with power, which people that crave leader and power are usually not the good guys. So the son of the man who made Snow White had something to say to her and to Disney in general. His name is David Hand. He's 91 years old, and he's the son of the Snow White director, who's also named David Hand. I'm afraid what they're going to do with the early films. Their thoughts are so radical now. They change the stories, they change the thought process of the characters. They just aren't the original stories anymore. They're making up new woke things, and I'm not into that. I'm sorry, I can't read. Remember, Mexicans can't read.
Today, Junior?
I'm not into any of that. I find it quite frankly a bit insulting that they may have done with some of the classic films, but no respect for what Disney did and what my dad did. I think Walt and he would be turning in his graves. Yes, Mr. Hand, you are correct. You are not wrong. Any Hoosers, I think that's all I have today. I hope you like this one. If you have any commentary you want to add to the conversation, please write it down. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Boy, 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 boy.